When did dancing become a passion?
When the world, doctors, and my mother told me I couldn't do it.
He was the unforgettable face of a generation, a star whose charisma and talent lit up the big screen and captured millions of hearts around the world.
And you know what, I don't really care what people say. Where I am is I finished one phase. Now we've switched gears because the blood tests and everything are looking like this cancer's getting wise.
From iconic dance moves to hauntingly romantic roles, he seemed unstoppable. But how did this legendary actor, who marked an era in film history, really meet his end? Get ready to uncover the surprising and heartbreaking truth. Let's see. Do you remember him? The rise of a cultural icon. Before Patrick Swayze was a household name, before he danced his way into the hearts of millions, he was just a boy from Houston, Texas, trying to find his place between discipline and affection. Born on August 18, 1952, Patrick was the second of 5 children in a family that was far from ordinary. His mother, Patsy Swayze, was not your typical nurturing parent. She was a demanding and gifted choreographer who built her life and her son's around the strict rhythm of dance. From a young age, Patrick was taught that excellence wasn't optional, it was expected. But that expectation came wrapped in a kind of love that didn't always feel soft. It was a love that pushed, corrected, and drove him toward perfection. Patsy's dance studio became more than a second home. It was the battlefield where Patrick learned resilience. She trained him with the same intensity she gave her professional students, often pushing him to the edge physically and emotionally. Some days, Patrick would collapse from exhaustion, but he always got back up. That toughness, that refusal to quit, didn't come naturally. It was drilled into him by a mother who saw potential and demanded it come to life. In interviews years later, Patrick admitted there were moments he struggled to separate her love from her criticism. He respected her power, but at times he feared it too. Yet, there was no denying the bond they shared, however complicated. Dance wasn't just movement in their house, it was communication. It was how they fought. It was how they forgave each other. While his mother shaped his artistic soul, his father, Jesse Wayne Swayze, was the emotional anchor in Patrick's life. Jesse wasn't involved in the arts and didn't always understand that world, but he was a calming presence, someone Patrick could quietly lean on. Jesse's steady nature stood in stark contrast to Patsy's intense ambition, and for young Patrick, his father's quiet strength was a safe place to land. When Patrick spoke about his childhood, he often lit up when remembering the simple moments with his dad, horseback rides, working on the ranch, watching the world without saying much. Jesse didn't need to say a lot to make his love known. He just showed up day after day. That kind of consistency became a rare comfort in Patrick's often overwhelming world. School was another challenge. Patrick attended Waltrip High School in Houston, but he never quite fit the mold of a traditional student. He was athletic, yes. He played football, was a skilled gymnast, and even trained in ice skating. But academics weren't where his spirit came alive. His passion burned brightest in the arts. Whether he was performing in school plays, dancing in local productions, or studying his mother's choreography, Patrick seemed to know early on that his life would follow a different beat. His teachers recognized his talent, but they also saw a boy struggling with the weight of expectations. There was always a quiet sadness behind his eyes, even when he smiled. That sadness deepened into something heavier in 1982, when his father suddenly died of a heart attack. Patrick was 30 years old, just on the brink of stardom, when his world collapsed. Jesse's death shattered him. In later interviews, Patrick said losing his dad was like losing his foundation. "He was my grounding," he confessed. When he was gone, I didn't know who I was anymore. For a while, he lost himself in grief. That grief became a shadow that followed him, quietly shaping many of the roles he would go on to play. The pain was real, and it never fully left him. It wasn't just the loss of a parent. It was the loss of a compass, a protector, a quiet kind of love that didn't demand anything but presence. Despite the emotional toll, Patrick kept moving. That was the only way he knew how to survive, by dancing through the pain, by channeling it into his work, by refusing to let it break him completely. But there were cracks. Cracks that no amount of choreography or performance could fully hide. As he grew older, those cracks widened, especially as he faced the pressures of fame, addiction, and illness. And yet, even at his lowest points, people who knew him say he never stopped talking about his parents, his mother's intensity, his father's quiet love. They stayed with him, always. Patrick Swayze's rise to fame wasn't just built on talent. It was built on childhood memories laced with ambition and heartbreak. It was built on the sound of a mother's voice counting out dance steps late into the night, and the silence of a father who showed love through presence, not words. It was built on the ache of a son who wanted to make them both proud, even as he struggled to forgive them, and himself, for the emotional storms they all weathered. Let's take you into the world where he didn't just chase roles, he built a legacy, one unforgettable performance at a time. Versatility on screen. Patrick Swayze was never one to settle for being boxed into a single role. While most people remember him as the heartthrob from Dirty Dancing or the grieving lover in Ghost, his career was filled with performances that challenged expectations and revealed layers to his talent that often went unnoticed. What made Swayze stand out wasn't just his looks or charisma, it was his fearless approach to storytelling. He took risks, embraced vulnerability, and chose roles that pushed against the image the world had of him. At a time when many leading men stuck to the same kinds of characters, Patrick sought transformation. He wanted to disappear into roles that made people think, question, or simply feel something new. One of the boldest examples of this came in 1995 with To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. In it, Swayze played Vida Boheme, a drag queen with elegance, strength, and heart. The role was unlike anything audiences had seen from him. It wasn't just a costume or a performance. It was a deep dive into identity, acceptance, and empathy. For Patrick, this wasn't about shock value or reinventing his brand. It was about human connection. He once shared in an interview that taking on Vida allowed him to explore kindness and dignity in a whole new way. The preparation was intense. He spent time with members of the drag community, learning their stories, understanding their struggles, and respecting their art. His dedication paid off, earning him a Golden Globe nomination and widespread praise for portraying the character with authenticity and grace. But Patrick didn't stop there. He wasn't interested in staying in the safe zone of familiar scripts. In 2001, he took on the role of Jim Cunningham in Donnie Darko, a cult film that became a haunting reflection of early 2000 angst and disillusionment. Jim was a motivational speaker, polished and upbeat on the surface, but hiding a disturbing secret underneath. The role was unsettling, and that's exactly why Patrick chose it. He understood the power of contrast, of showing darkness through the guise of light. He didn't flinch from playing a character that would make people uncomfortable. Instead, he leaned into the discomfort. In an interview, he said, "Sometimes, what scares you most is the story that needs to be told." These performances were not just acting challenges, They were personal statements. Patrick wasn't trying to reshape his career for the sake of longevity. He was trying to honor the craft he loved. He approached every role with seriousness, even if the film itself wasn't a blockbuster. Whether it was a big studio project or an indie film with a modest budget, he gave the same level of heart. He once said that his goal wasn't to be the biggest star in the room, but the most committed actor on set. That mindset made him deeply respected in the industry. His willingness to take creative risks didn't always come with commercial rewards, but Patrick didn't measure success only in box office numbers. He measured it in impact, how a role could touch someone or make them think differently. That's why his filmography includes such a wide range of characters: dancers, ghosts, surfers, drag queens, villains, and more. He believed in the power of transformation, and he let that belief guide his choices. There were times when critics didn't fully understand his decisions. Not every film was well received. Some were ahead of their time, others misunderstood. But Patrick never chased approval. He chased meaning, and in doing so, he quietly built one of the most varied and emotionally honest careers of his generation. His performances aged well, gaining new appreciation as viewers revisited his work with fresh eyes. Roles that were once considered surprising were later seen as brave. His fans, too, grew with him. People who first fell in love with him as a romantic lead discovered in later years just how complex and courageous his choices were. He didn't abandon his image, he expanded it. He showed that strength could coexist with sensitivity, and that fame didn't have to limit your artistic reach. Though Patrick's life seemed wonderful, and many envied the love he received, few knew the challenges he faced throughout his journey. Let's take you through them. Behind the scenes, controversies and conflicts. While fans saw the confident, smooth actor who seemed to glide effortlessly through roles, the reality on set was sometimes much more complicated. The man who appeared so polished and in control was also human, with vulnerabilities, insecurities, and tensions that shaped his professional life in ways the public rarely witnessed. One of the more revealing accounts of what it was like working with Patrick comes from his co-star, John Leguizamo. They shared the screen in the 1995 film To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything. Julie Newmar, a bold and unique movie in which Patrick played Vida Boheme, a drag queen with grace and strength. On paper, it seemed like a perfect fit for an actor willing to push boundaries. But behind the camera, things were not as smooth. Leguizamo described Patrick as neurotic and insecure during filming. This might come as a surprise to fans who always saw Patrick as confident and in command, but the pressure of the role and the high expectations he placed on himself made him difficult to work with at times. Leguizamo's style of acting was very improvisational and spontaneous, which clashed with Swayze's preference for sticking strictly to the script. This difference in approach led to tension on set and created a challenging working environment for everyone involved. Despite the tension, Patrick's commitment to the role and his craft never wavered. But these behind-the-scenes conflicts remind us that acting isn't just about glamour. It can be stressful and draining, especially when artists have different ways of working and different levels of comfort with spontaneity and control. Patrick's struggles with insecurity show a side of him that is rarely discussed, but deeply human. He wasn't immune to self-doubt, and the pressure to live up to his own standards sometimes made collaboration difficult. This tension wasn't just about personality clashes. It reflected the larger struggle many actors face in balancing personal vulnerability with professional expectations. There were also moments in Patrick's career when his personal struggles with substance use came into the spotlight, adding another layer of difficulty to his work. Jennifer Grey, who co-starred with him in Red Dawn, shared an incident that revealed how substance use affected their professional environment. She recalled that during the filming of a sex scene, Patrick was intoxicated. The scene was ultimately cut from the final version of the film. But Gray's memory of the experience highlights a darker side of working with the actor. Substance use, whether to cope with stress, anxiety, or the pressures of fame, was a reality for Patrick, just as it is for many in Hollywood. This incident didn't define his career, but it exposed the challenges that often lie hidden beneath the surface. Jennifer Gray's frustration with the situation was clear. She pointed out how unprofessional and uncomfortable it was to work under those conditions. For actors, trust and reliability on set are essential, especially in scenes that require emotional vulnerability or physical intimacy. When substance use interferes, it affects not just one person, but the entire cast and crew. It's a reminder that behind the polished final product, there are human struggles and imperfections that shape the creative process. Patrick's experience was not unique, but it was part of the complexity of his journey. In interviews later in his life, Patrick rarely spoke publicly about these difficulties, choosing instead to focus on his work and the people he loved. But those who worked with him often remember a man who was deeply dedicated, sensitive, and complicated. The tension on set, the moments of insecurity, and the struggles with substances were all parts of a larger picture. A picture of an artist striving for greatness while battling his own inner demons. Apart from the challenges and controversies, Patrick faced personal turmoil that might just surprise you. Let's take you through the hidden struggles behind the spotlight. Turmoil in personal relationships. Patrick Swayze's personal life was far from the picture-perfect image many fans imagined. Behind the charismatic smile and on-screen romance, his relationships were filled with complexities and struggles that few ever saw. Like many people, Patrick faced emotional challenges that tested his strength and shaped the man behind the fame. Some of these struggles were deeply private, while others eventually found their way into public view, revealing a side of Patrick's life that was much messier than the roles he played. One of the most surprising revelations about Patrick's personal relationships came from his North and South co-star, Kirstie Alley. The two worked closely together on the popular 1985 TV series, and during filming, they shared what Alley described as an emotional affair. This wasn't a simple friendship, but a deeply connected bond that went beyond typical co-star camaraderie. In interviews, Kirstie Alley admitted that she even tried to move their relationship toward a physical level. However, Patrick made it clear that he would not cross that line, respecting the fact that both of them were married at the time. This moment showed a different side of Patrick, a man torn between intense feelings and his own moral compass. It's easy to assume that someone so charming and passionate on screen would give in to temptation, but Patrick's decision revealed his loyalty and the boundaries he set in his personal life. The emotional affair with Kirstie Alley also speaks to the loneliness that can come with fame. Being constantly in the public eye and living under scrutiny often makes genuine connection difficult. For Patrick, the close bond with Kirstie might have filled a gap that neither of them could fully explain. She said in interviews that their relationship was intense but complicated, and it reflected how complicated Patrick's personal life really was. This emotional complexity is something many people can relate to. The feeling of wanting connection, but also being tied down by responsibility and circumstance. Yet, the emotional struggles were only part of the turmoil. As the years went by, Patrick's marriage to Lisa Nemi, whom he had been with since the late 1970s, reportedly faced serious difficulties, especially in his final months. Despite being seen publicly as a devoted couple, Sources close to Patrick suggested a very different reality behind closed doors. According to reports from friends and insiders, Lisa Nemi was controlling and even abusive during Patrick's last months battling cancer. It was said that she tightly controlled many aspects of his life, from finances to who he could see, isolating him from friends and support systems that could have helped him. The claim of abuse shocked many because it seemed so at odds with the loving image the couple had presented to the world. Friends said that Lisa's behavior grew increasingly harsh, and there were rumors of multiple affairs, adding layers of betrayal and pain to Patrick's already difficult fight with illness. This kind of personal turmoil is difficult to imagine for someone so admired, but it serves as a harsh reminder that public personas often hide private suffering. Patrick was not just a star. He was a human being, enduring complicated emotions and conflicts in his closest relationships. Friends who tried to reach out to Patrick during his illness described a man trapped between his physical pain and emotional isolation. Despite his own struggles, Patrick remained dignified and focused on his craft as long as he could. But the alleged control and neglect from his wife added an unbearable burden. For someone used to being in control on screen, losing control in his personal life must have been deeply painful. What makes Patrick's personal turmoil even more relatable is that many people, famous or not, face difficult relationships behind closed doors. It's easy to look at someone's success or fame and assume they have it all figured out. But Patrick's story reminds us that love, loyalty, and trust are complicated, fragile things. His life was a mix of passion, heartbreak, devotion, and betrayal. All emotions anyone can understand, even if the scale is different. In interviews, Patrick rarely spoke publicly about the conflicts or pain in his personal life. He preferred to keep that part private, focusing instead on his work and the love he shared with his daughter and close friends. His silence on these matters only adds to the sense that there was much more going on beneath the surface than the world ever saw. Patrick's marital struggles might have surprised you, but what makes his story even more heartbreaking is the tragedy surrounding his final days and death. The final curtain call. What many didn't know was that Patrick's life was not only shadowed by marital difficulties and emotional turmoil, but also by serious battles with addiction and devastating loss. One of the darkest moments came in 1994, when his beloved sister, Vicky, tragically took her own life. The pain of losing a sibling in such a way is unimaginable, and it left a deep scar on Patrick's heart. This loss affected him profoundly, though he rarely spoke about it publicly. It was a quiet grief that stayed with him even as his career soared. In addition to these emotional struggles, Patrick had his own battles with alcohol and substance use. These addictions, common among many in Hollywood, threatened to derail his career and personal life more than once. Despite these hardships, Patrick's dedication to his craft and his fans never wavered. His resilience was clear in the way he managed to stay focused on his work, even during his darkest moments. The most dramatic and heartbreaking battle came in January 2008, when Patrick was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. This news was a crushing blow not only to Patrick, but to his millions of fans around the world. Pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest forms of cancer, often diagnosed late and notoriously difficult to treat. The prognosis was grim, but Patrick's response showed the strength of his spirit. Instead of retreating from the public eye, he chose to fight with every ounce of energy he had. Despite the physical toll of the disease, Patrick continued working, starring in the television series The Beast. He was determined to not let cancer define his life or his legacy. Friends and colleagues described him as fiercely brave during this time, showing up on set whenever he could, even when his body was weak and pain was intense. This period revealed the depth of his passion for acting and his unwillingness to give up, inspiring many who followed his story. The treatments were grueling. Pancreatic cancer often requires aggressive chemotherapy and radiation, both of which can leave a person exhausted and sick. Yet Patrick endured these with a quiet dignity. Interviews with those close to him revealed how he balanced hope and realism, never losing sight of the fact that he wanted to live fully, even as he faced one of the toughest fights of his life. His wife, Lisa Nemi, stood by him during this time, caring for him and supporting him as best she could. Despite the difficulties in their relationship, in these final months, their focus was on Patrick's comfort and peace. The physical symptoms of pancreatic cancer began to take their toll. Patrick experienced severe pain, fatigue, and weight loss. Yet, even when he was visibly weakened, his determination to act and connect with people remained strong. He spoke openly about his battle with cancer in interviews, hoping to raise awareness and encourage others not to lose hope. His openness was rare among celebrities battling terminal illnesses, and it endeared him even more to his fans. Sadly, despite his bravery and fight, Patrick Swayze's battle ended on September 14, 2009. He passed away at the age of 57, surrounded by loved ones. His death marked the end of a life that had touched millions, not just through his films but through the humanity he showed in facing such overwhelming challenges. The world mourned a star who had shined brightly, but burned out too soon. Let's tell you how Patrick Swayze was remembered after his death, and how a beloved star's legacy lives on beyond the silver screen. Tributes and his legacy. Patrick Swayze's passing left a deep void in Hollywood and in the hearts of fans around the world. The tributes that poured in from fellow actors, directors, and friends reflected not only his incredible talent, but also the warmth, kindness, and resilience that defined him as a person. His legacy is much more than the memorable roles he played on screen. It is a story of courage, passion, and the lasting impact he made on those who knew him and those who admired him from afar. One of the most heartfelt tributes came from his Dirty Dancing co-star, Jennifer Grey. She described Patrick as the heart and soul of the film, crediting him with bringing a unique blend of charm, intensity, and vulnerability to his roles. Grey recalled that working with Patrick was like dancing with a friend and a professional who cared deeply about the craft. In interviews after his death, she often mentioned how his spirit lived on through the timeless movies they created together, especially Dirty Dancing, which remains a beloved classic decades later. Keanu Reeves, who worked with Patrick in the film Point Break, also paid homage to his colleagues' dedication and professionalism. Reeves said Patrick was a true artist who approached acting with seriousness and humility. He remembered Patrick's kindness on set and how, despite his celebrity, he remained down-to-earth and approachable. Keanu's words helped fans understand that behind Patrick's larger-than-life screen presence was a humble man devoted to his work and to those around him. Other stars like Whoopi Goldberg and Patrick's Ghost co-star Demi Moore also shared their admiration for him. Goldberg praised Patrick's versatility, noting how he was able to shift seamlessly from romantic lead to action star, and even to more challenging roles, like his portrayal of a drag queen in To Wong Foo, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. Moore, who starred alongside him in Ghost, spoke of his professionalism and the kindness he showed during filming, especially in emotionally intense scenes. For many actors, working with Patrick was a chance to learn from someone who brought both skill and heart to every role. Beyond the admiration of his peers, fans around the world kept Patrick's memory alive through fan clubs, tribute events, and social media. His films, especially Dirty Dancing and Ghost, continued to captivate new generations. The iconic line from Dirty Dancing, "Nobody puts baby in a corner," remains one of the most quoted in film history, a testament to the lasting impact of his work. His ability to connect with audiences through heartfelt performances made him a cultural icon whose influence extended far beyond Hollywood. Patrick's legacy also includes his contributions as a dancer and singer. His work in Dirty Dancing not only showcased his acting, but also highlighted his passion for dance, a skill he had cultivated since childhood. The hit song "She's Like the Wind," which he co-wrote and performed, demonstrated his musical talent and added another layer to his artistic legacy. These diverse talents made Patrick a rare kind of performer, one who could blend multiple art forms to create memorable experiences for his audience. His battle with pancreatic cancer and his courage in the face of illness added another dimension to his legacy. Patrick's openness about his diagnosis and determination to keep working inspired many facing their own health battles. He became an emblem of strength and hope, showing that even in the darkest moments, one could still find purpose and dignity. Organizations dedicated to pancreatic cancer research and awareness have since cited his story to encourage funding and support for patients. After his death, several documentaries and biographical projects sought to capture the full scope of Patrick's life and career. These works highlighted not only his successes, but also the struggles he faced, from personal losses to health challenges. By sharing his story honestly, these projects helped fans appreciate the man behind the fame, celebrating both his achievements and his resilience. Patrick's influence can also be seen in the many actors and dancers who cite him as an inspiration. His ability to blend strength with vulnerability, to take on diverse roles, and to bring authenticity to his performances set a standard for future generations. Many young actors credit Patrick with opening doors for more physically demanding and emotionally complex roles in Hollywood. His unique combination of talents made him a role model not just for his artistry, but for his dedication and professionalism. In the years following his death, Patrick's family and friends have continued to honor his memory through charitable work and public appearances. His wife, Lisa Niemi, who was also his longtime dance partner, established foundations and events that support cancer research and the arts. These efforts ensure that Patrick's legacy goes beyond entertainment, touching lives and helping others in meaningful ways. Ultimately, Patrick Swayze is remembered as much for the man he was off-screen as for the star he was on screen. His humility, kindness, and perseverance remain qualities that fans and colleagues alike admire. The tributes from fellow stars show a man who was loved and respected, someone who made a difference simply by being himself. His life story, filled with triumphs and challenges, continues to inspire people to live fully, embrace their passions, and face adversity with courage. What do you think made Patrick Swayze such a timeless icon? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to click the cards on screen for more amazing stories.